There is a holy hush that falls upon the earth at 3 a.m., a silence so deep, so still, it feels like God himself has leaned down to listen. And in that sacred hour, strong women rise, not because sleep has left them, but because purpose has called them. Can you hear it? The whisper in the dark, the nudge in the spirit. Awaken, daughter, for I have need of you. The world may slumber, but faith does not rest, while others dream women of God are kneeling, praying, wrestling with heaven until blessings break through. Why 3 a.m.? Because it is the hour of divine appointment, when fear trembles and faith rises, when doubts crumble and miracles stir. It is the time when a woman, wrapped in both strength and surrender, meets God face to face and says, "Here I am." She does not rise in weakness, but in power. Not a curse, this waking. It is a calling, a sign that God trusts her with secrets, with battles, with breakthroughs. He has placed a light in her that cannot be hidden, a fire that will not die. So if you find yourself awake at 3 a.m., do not fret. Do not groan. Lift your head, sister. The Lord is near and he is speaking. The world needs your prayers, your light, your unshakable faith. Rise up for such a time as this. There is a fire in the heart of a strong woman, a fire that does not flicker when the winds of life blow hard, a fire that does not dim when the night grows long. It is the kind of fire that warms the cold, lights the way for the lost, and burns away fear until only faith remains. This is no ordinary strength. It is not the kind that comes from muscles or money or the praise of people. No, this strength runs deep. It is forged in the secret places, in the quiet hours of prayer, in the tears wiped away before anyone sees, in the moments when giving up would be easier, but she chooses to rise instead. A strong woman knows pain. She has felt its sting, its weight, its endless ache. But she has also learned this sacred truth. Pain is not the end of her story. It is the beginning of her power. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every dream that seemed to die too soon, these are not her defeat. They are her preparation, because God does not waste a single hurt. He takes every wound and weaves it into wisdom. He turns every struggle into strength. And when the time is right, he lifts her head and says, "Now, daughter, now you are the world will try to tell her otherwise. It will whisper that she is too much, too loud, too bold, too passionate, both too passionate. Voila. Or it will hiss that she is not enough, not pretty enough, not quiet enough, not broken enough to fit into its small sad box. But a strong woman does not listen. She knows who she is. She has heard the voice of her Creator and has told her this: "You are mine, you are chosen. You are loved with a love that will not let you go." And so she stands unshaken. There is a fierceness in her love for her family, for her calling, for the God who holds her soul. She loves with a love that fights, that sacrifices, that stays. She is the one who kneels in the dark, praying over her children when they cannot see. She is the one who holds the hands of the broken and says, "You are not alone." She is the one who looks at a mountain of impossibility and smiles, because she has already seen it moved before. Do not mistake her kindness for weakness. Do not think because she carries grace, she will not also carry a sword. A strong woman knows when to bend and when to stand firm. She knows when to speak life and when to silence the lies. She has learned the rhythm of heaven, when to move and when to wait, when to roar and when to whisper. She is not afraid of the battle because she knows the war is already won. And oh, how the enemy trembles when she wakes up to this truth. He has seen her before, this woman who prays until walls fall, who worships while the storm still rages, who rises from the ashes every single time. He knows what happens when she remembers her power. When she lifts her hands in her voice and says, "No more," chains break, generations shift, miracles wake up from their long sleep. A strong woman is not born overnight. She is built in the hidden places, in the moments when no one is watching, when the applause is faded, when the road is lonely and long. But God sees her. He counts every tear. He stores every prayer. And when the time comes, he unleashes her not just for herself, but for the ones who will come after her. She is a living testimony, a walking miracle, proof that God keeps his promises. So if you are that woman, if you have ever felt the weight of the world and still chose to love, if you have ever been knocked down and still found the strength to rise, then hear this: you are powerful. Not because of you, but because of the one who lives in you. You are stronger than you know, braver than you feel, and more loved than you can imagine. The world needs your light, so shine, daughter of heaven. Shine. There is something holy about 3 a.m. that the world doesn't understand. It's the hour when the earth holds its breath, when the noise of the day fades into a sacred hush and heaven leans in close. The strong women who wake at this hour, they don't do it by accident. They are summoned, drawn from their beds by a whisper too urgent to ignore, a nudge too persistent to sleep through. This is no ordinary wakefulness. It is a divine appointment, a meeting with the maker of the universe, and he has something to say. Why 3 a.m.? Because it's the hour when distractions die. The phone isn't ringing, the emails aren't pouring in, the world isn't demanding your attention. It's just you, raw, real, uncovered, and God. No masks, no performances, no pretending. In the daylight, we wear so many hats, carry so many burdens, play so many roles. But at 3 a.m., it all falls away. It's just your soul and the one who formed it, speaking in the language of the Spirit. This is when he does his deepest work. This is when strong women are forged. The enemy fears this hour. He knows what happens when a woman of faith gets alone with God in the middle of the night. He knows the power of a prayer that won't let go of a heart that refuses to back down. He knows that 3 a.m. is when battles are won before the sun even rises. This is the hour when strong women take hold of heaven and pull down miracles. When they remind God of his promises, not because he has forgotten, but because they refuse to forget. When they stand in the gap for their families, their dreams, their calling, and declare, not on my watch. There's a reason Jesus often prayed in the night. There's a reason Jacob wrestled with God until daybreak. There's a reason the widow kept knocking on the judge's door until he answered. Heaven responds to persistence, to the kind of faith that doesn't need a crowd, doesn't need applause, doesn't need anything but the raw, desperate cry of a heart that says, God, I need you, and 3 a.m. is where that cry is loudest. Some call it insomnia, some call it stress, but strong women know better. They recognize the divine interruption, the holy disturbance. They know that when sleep flees at this hour, it's because God is stirring something in them. A dream, a warning, a word, a mission. He trusts them with secrets. He trusts them with burdens. He trusts them to pray through the night because he knows they won't quit until they see the breakthrough. This is the hour when destinies are shaped. Strong women hear the voice of God clearer than ever because the noise of the world is finally silent. This is when he downloads strategies, when he heals old wounds, when he whispers, you're ready now. This is when the vision comes alive, when the calling becomes undeniable, when the fire in their bones can no longer be contained. The world may never understand why strong women wake at 3 a.m. They may call it restlessness, anxiety, exhaustion, but you know the truth. You know it's not a curse, it's a gift, a privilege, a sign that God has marked you for something greater, that he trusts you with the kind of prayers that move mountains, that he is preparing you, equipping you, positioning you for what's coming. So the next time you find yourself awake at 3 a.m., don't roll over in frustration. Don't count sheep or scroll through your phone. Sit up, listen, pray, worship. This is your time, your moment, your divine appointment. Heaven is waiting, and the world needs what God is about to do through you. There is a secret place where strong women go when the world becomes too heavy, when the noise becomes too loud, when the battle feels too big. It's not a physical place. No towering mountains or quiet forests, though those are beautiful too. No, this place is deeper, closer, always within reach. It's the sacred space of prayer and meditation, where knees meet the floor and hearts meet heaven. This is where the real work happens. This is where weak knees are strengthened, where weary souls are refreshed, where broken pieces are made whole again. Prayer is not just words. It's not just a list of requests whispered into the air. It's a lifeline, a battle cry, a love song. It's the breath of a woman who knows she can't do this alone, so she pours out her heart to the one who holds the universe in his hands. And in that moment, something shifts, the weight lifts, the storm stills, the impossible becomes possible. Because prayer isn't about changing God's mind, it's about changing hers. It's about remembering who He is, who she is, and what He has promised. And then there's meditation. The quiet after the prayer, the listening after this. This is where strong women sit in the stillness and let God speak. Not in the thunder or the earthquake, but in the whisper, in the gentle nudge of the Spirit, in the sudden peace that floods her heart when the world says she should be afraid. Meditation is where truth sinks in deep, where lies are stripped away, where she hears Him say, "You are mine, you are enough, you're not forgotten." Some people think prayer is weak. They think it's what you do when you've run out of options, when there's nothing left to try. But strong women know the truth. Prayer is the first resort, not the last. It's the greatest weapon they have. It's how they start their day, how they fight their battles, how they survive the darkest. They've seen what prayer can do, how it can move mountains, how it can break chains, how it can turn the hardest heart soft again. They've watched God show up over and over in ways they never could have imagined in meditation. It's how they stay standing when everything else is shaking. It's how they keep their peace when chaos is screaming. It's how they hold on to joy when the world tries to steal it. They don't just read God's promises, they chew on them. They roll them over in their hearts like precious stones, letting the truth of them sink deep into their bones. I am loved. I am chosen. I am held. I am never alone. These aren't just nice words. They're anchors. They're the foundation strong women build their lives on. There's a reason the enemy hates prayer. There's a reason he fights so hard to keep women too busy, too tired, too distracted to sit at God's feet. Because he knows what happens when a woman of faith gets serious about prayer. Strongholds crumble, generational curses break, miracles wake up from their slumber. The enemy can handle a woman who works hard, who hustles, who tries to do it all in her own strength. But a woman who prays, a woman who knows how to get alone with God and stay there until heaven moves. They don't squeeze it in when it's convenient. They build their days around it. They know that minutes spent in prayer are never wasted, that every whispered "help me" is heard, that every tear is counted. They know that prayer isn't about fancy words or perfect posture. It's about a heart that's open, raw, real. It's about saying, "God, I can't, but you can." And then watching Him do what only He can do. And meditation is how they keep their minds from spiraling into fear. It's how they silence the lies that scream they're not good enough, not strong enough, not enough. It's how they fix their eyes on what's true instead of what's temporary. They don't just survive, they thrive. Because they've learned the secret. Life isn't about what's happening to them. It's about what's happening in them. And in the quiet place of prayer and meditation, God is always working, always healing, always preparing them for what's next. So if you're feeling weak today, if the way feels too heavy, if the road seems too long, stop. Breathe. Pray. Meditate. Let God remind you who you are. This is where your power comes from. This is how you'll not only survive but rise, because prayer changes everything. And a woman who knows how to pray, that's a woman who can move the world. There is a reason you were born in this generation, not by accident, not by chance, but by divine appointment. You are a woman of faith in this hour because God needs exactly what you carry. He shaped your voice to speak to this moment. He tempered your courage to face these challenges. He planted dreams in your heart that align with heaven's calendar. This is not random. You were designed on purpose for purpose, with a calling that echoes through eternity. The world will try to shrink you, silence you, make you doubt your place. But God says you are His masterpiece, fearfully and wonderfully made. Every curve of your personality, every passion in your spirit, every tear you've cried has been woven into His perfect plan. You aren't too much. You aren't too little. You are exactly what this broken world needs. A woman who knows her God, who walks in her authority, who carries light into darkness. Look at the women God used throughout history. Esther, who stood in the palace for such a time as this. Deborah, who led nations with wisdom. Mary, who carried the Savior. They didn't have perfect resumes or ideal circumstances. They simply said yes when heaven called. And now God is calling you. Not when you have it all together, not when you feel ready now. In your current season, with your current resources, with your beautiful, imperfect faith that's just enough to move mountains, your purpose isn't hidden in some distant future. It's unfolding right now in your everyday obedience, in how you love your family when no one's watching, in how you serve at work with excellence, in how you intercede for your city while doing dishes. God sees it all. He's using it all. Those small, faithful steps are building something eternal. You aren't just raising children, you're raising world changers. You aren't just working a job, you're establishing God's kingdom in your sphere. You aren't just surviving, you're shifting atmospheres everywhere you go. The enemy fears you when you wake up to this truth. He trembles when you realize your prayers shape history, your worship shakes hell's gates, your ordinary life becomes holy ground, because women of faith don't just occupy space, they transform it. They don't just endure trials, they redeem them. They don't just dream, they manifest heaven on earth through radical obedience. Maybe you don't feel qualified. Good. God isn't looking for the qualified, He's looking for the available. Moses stuttered. David was the youngest. Rahab was a prostitute. God used them all because they said yes. Your weaknesses aren't obstacles, they're opportunities for God's power to shine. Your past mistakes aren't disqualifications, they're testimonies waiting to happen. Your current struggles aren't roadblocks, they're preparation for what's coming. There are generations tied to your obedience. When you pray, chains break off your family line. When you worship, strongholds crumble over your children's future. When you step out in faith, you create paths others will follow. You're not just living for yourself, you're carrying a legacy. The enemy knows this, which is why he fights so hard to make you feel insignificant. But God says different. He says you're chosen, anointed, a history maker in high heels or sneakers or bare feet, whatever your assignment requires. So rise up, daughter of the King. Stop waiting for permission. Stop comparing your journey. The world needs your voice, not a copy of someone else's. Your community needs your gifts. Your family needs your unique love. The kingdom needs your bold yes. God didn't make a mistake when He placed passions in your heart. Those are clues to your calling. Those desires to help, to create, to lead, to heal, they're divine downloads, not distractions. This is your moment, not because everything is perfect, but because God is faithful. Not because you're ready, but because He is. You were born for such a time as this, equipped with everything needed to fulfill your purpose. The road may not be easy, but it will be worth it. The critics may be loud, but God's voice is louder. The obstacles may seem big, but your God is bigger, so wear your crown with confidence. Walk in your authority with boldness. Love with abandon. Pray without ceasing. Believe without wavering. The best is yet to come, and it starts today, right where you are with what you have, saying yes to whatever God asks. The world is waiting for the God in you to shine. So shine, beautiful warrior, shine. Your purpose is calling. Fear comes knocking like an uninvited guest in the middle of the night. It whispers lies that slither into your thoughts, wrapping around your confidence until you can barely breathe. What if you fail? What if they reject you? What if you're not enough? It paints worst-case scenarios on the walls of your mind until shadows look like monsters. But listen closely, warrior. Fear is a liar. And faith is your weapon. Faith doesn't mean you won't feel afraid. It means you refuse to let fear have the final say. Remember David facing Goliath? His knees probably shook too, but he didn't focus on the giant. He focused on his God. That's the secret. When fear screams about how big your problems are, faith whispers back about how much bigger your God is. Every what if fear throws at you can be answered with, but God, what if I fall? But God will catch you. What if I'm not enough? But God says you are. What if this doesn't work? But God makes all things work together for good. Doubt tries to trip you up, making you second guess every step. So every step. Who do you think you are? You're not qualified. You've messed up too much. But faith reminds you, your qualifications come from God, not people. Your past doesn't disqualify you. It prepares you. That pain you went through is now your testimony. Those mistakes you made, they're now your message. That weakness you carry. Stop letting doubt rewrite your story when God has already written the ending. And it's good. The battle starts in your mind. That's why you have to fight back with truth. When fear says you can't, faith declares I can do all things through Christ. When doubt whispers it's impossible, faith shouts with God all things are possible. This isn't positive thinking. This is spiritual warfare. Every promise in Scripture is a sword in your hand. Wield it. Speak it. Stand on it until the ground stops shaking beneath your feet. Some days faith feels easy. The sun is shining. Prayers are answered. And you feel unstoppable. Other days faith feels like walking through fire. Your hands tremble. Your heart races. But you keep moving forward anyway. Both are faith. God isn't measuring how you feel. He's honoring your choice to trust Him when everything in you wants to run. That single step you take when you're terrified. That's the step that moves. Remember this when fear tries to paralyze you. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. Every hero of faith in the Bible was afraid at some point. Moses didn't feel ready. Esther risked her life. Peter stepped out of the boat onto raging waves. What made them great wasn't their lack of fear. It was their decision to act in faith anyway. Your breakthrough isn't on the other side of fear disappearing. It's on the other side of you choosing faith over fear. There's power in speaking faith out loud. Fear grows in silence, but faith multiplies when declared. Say it until you believe it. God is with me. God is for me. God will make a way. Your words create reality. Don't give voice to your fears. Give voice to your faith. The more you declare God's promises, the smaller your doubts become. Surround yourself with faith-filled voices when your own faith feels weak. Find those friends who will remind you of truth when you forget, who will pray bold prayers over you when you can only whisper, who will point you back to God's faithfulness when your vision gets blurry. We weren't meant to do this alone. Even Elijah, after his greatest victory, needed someone to help him stand back up. Most importantly, keep your eyes on Jesus. Not on the waves, not on the storm, not on the storm, not on your inadequacies. When Peter looked at Jesus, he walked on water. When he looked at the storm, he sank. Your circumstances may not change immediately, but your perspective will, and that changes everything. Fear will come, doubt will try. But you're a daughter of the King. You carry resurrection power in your bones. You have angels assigned to your life. The same God who parted seas, shut lions' mouths, and raised the dead lives in you. So take that deep breath, straighten your crown.